Introduction. For people, existing without self-identity is impossible, which has defined the significance of exploring self-identity. Though the subject matter is completely intangible, it constitutes a vital part of oneself. In fact, even defining an identity is quite hard due to the number of components that it contains and the range of ideas that it encompasses. However, delving into the nature and key constituents of an identity as a whole will help understand it better. An identity does not have to be likable, pleasant, or even harmless. It merely serves to mark the unique characteristics of an individual and represent the key patterns in which the individual in question interacts with others. However, a personal identity is prone to being modified, which creates opportunities for personal growth. Since a personal identity comprises a countless variety of characteristics and traits, it is influenced by multiple factors, including, but not limited to, race and ethnicity, culture, society, family and its traditions, significant others, media, life experiences, education, and the available opportunities. Counterargument. One could argue that the factors listed above are not the necessary constituents of an identity. For instance, some of the items, such as media, could be considered of lesser importance than others, whereas some factors could be considered underrepresented in the definition above. The perspective in question has the right to be voiced since it allows expanding upon the current concept of a personal identity and gain a more profound and detailed, as well as a more diverse, understanding of the subject matter. Rebuttal. Nonetheless, the factors introduced in the definition of identity offered above can be considered as fully encapsulating the essence of an identity and the critical factors affecting it. Specifically, the proposed list of factors sheds light on the importance of sociocultural influences, including both internal, namely, family and community-related ones, and external factors, particularly those pertaining to the impact of the dominant culture cemented in social and popular media. Therefore, the claim concerning the factors listed above being irrelevant or incomplete appears to be unsubstantiated. Counterargument. Furthermore, it could be stated that an identity is a significantly simpler concept than the one presented above, its main elements being the ability to recognize one's qualities. The specified stance on what constitutes an identity could be seen as legitimate despite its brevity and the lack of focus on the existing diversity. In fact, it could be claimed that the proposed definition allows enveloping the very essence of a personal identity since it accounts for every major identity type as a result of its comparative vagueness. Rebuttal. Nevertheless, the offered interpretation of what makes an identity does not seem to be a proper replacement of the idea of a personal identity being a constellation of a variety of socio-cultural and environment-related factors, since it fails to specify the foundational factors that shape an identity and contribute to its gradual development. While the ability to recognize one's uniqueness should definitely be added to the roster of characteristics of a personal identity, using it alone does not provide the overview of the external factors, namely, socio-cultural ones that shape the development of an identity within a community. Therefore, as a standalone definition, it needs to be discarded. Argument 1. The importance of internal factors, including family-related ones and the ones regarding culture, ethnicity, race, and sex, cannot possibly be doubted. Since an identity can be seen as the manifestation of one's convictions and beliefs, as well as the relevant value system, the qualities considered as crucial to one's culture and family traditions represent the core for building an identity. Among the key pieces of evidence that support the significance of inherent factors, primarily race and sex, one should consider the differences in personal identities of men and women in most cultures. Argument 2. There are multiple pieces of evidence confirming the statement above. Specifically, Ross and Woodley state that family-related items, including values and beliefs, traditions, and relationship patterns, provide the core for one's identity. Similarly, intrinsic characteristics such as sex and race affect the type of ideas to which an individual is exposed since the childhood. Indeed, in most cultures, the presence of rigid gender roles assigned to people of either male or female sex determine one's philosophy and beliefs, while setting a clear and rather uncompromising value system. Therefore, the significance of the specified factors cannot be doubted. Argument 3. The importance of socioeconomic factors is not to be underestimated either. Providing an opportunity to gain additional knowledge and, therefore, a new insight into the nature of identity and the factors that define its development. Specifically, socioeconomic constraints are likely to limit one's exposure to education and employment opportunities, therefore, minimizing the chances for active knowledge exchange. For instance, the existing evidence points to significant differences in the patterns of identity development in people belonging to different social classes. Consequently, one's identity is largely affected by economic and class-related factors. Argument 4. Additionally, there are reasons to believe that the role of external factors, particularly mass media and social networks, is quite ample. For example, in a scenario where a child is exposed to the influence of popular media from a relatedly early age, its certain elements, such as the promotion of values associated with consumerism, as well as an increasing interest in specific art genres, particularly music tastes and entertainment, in general, can be expected. The outlined effects can be seen as normal when viewing them through the lens of childhood development theories, particularly those of Piaget and Vygotsky. However, it is essential for an individual to evolve and be able to apply one's critical faculties to recognize the value of each factor affecting the development of one's identity, isolating the negative one and increasing the impact of the positive factors. The scenario in question implies that social interactions are vital in building a value system and, therefore, the basis for a personal identity in children. Aligning with the perspective of Piaget, who emphasized the importance of socialization as the tool for encouraging children to imitate people around them, the specified observation indicates that the role models established in media serve as the prerequisite to building a personal identity. Encouraging children to internalize the offered values and philosophy, the specified elements of the social environment shape one's personality to a significant extent. Moreover, social and popular media introduce the relationship model that young children and teenagers are likely to imitate, therefore, creating the basis for building their identity. Conclusion. Overall, the combination of factors involving family influence, culture-specific values and traditions, and popular media defines one's identity to a significant extent. Serving as the model for molding relationships with others, the examples found in the family and media environment define how one perceives the world and other people. For this reason, the significance of both internal and external factors is not to be underrated. You can find this and many other essay samples on our website studycorgi.com.